Hello, and welcome to Health Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen, and welcome to another episode. We are going to talk to you guys a little bit about addiction, and I think this is going to be a great guest to have on. He's had a crazy life story. I've done some reading up on him prior to having him on the show, so I'm excited to have it on. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Pat. Pat, it's a pleasure to have you on today.
Hey, thanks, man. I really appreciate you having me. It's great.
Yeah, excited to have you on, kind of hear your story, how you went from addiction to moving all the way working out and achieving things. And would love to hear a little bit about kind of what started down that rabbit hole.
Well, I mean, the addiction part started when I was like super young. My mother and my dad, they were both like super young when they got together. And basically, by the time I was 9 months old, they were already divorced. My dad was in jail for domestic violence and he left. So I was with my mom from pretty much 0 to 4. My uncle lived with my mom's real brother lived with us, and it was kind of like the party house. He was only like 18, 19 years old, and he had a pretty good job working at the mine. He had money and stuff, and it's kind of just like the party house. My mom was never there. She dealt cards at the casino and basically probably worked 50, 60 hours a week. I got left with a lot of different people. I found myself, I got drunk at like probably like 3 or 4 years old because of just like the aftermath of the party. And I drank like the half drinking bottles. I didn't drink every day from that point, but I remember that point in time that it was really like it hit because I still remember to this day. I just had this great time. I'm like jumping off the dresser, I'm jumping off the bed, I'm doing all this crazy stuff, like wild party stuff. And like, of course I got in trouble for it. Me and my mom's friend's son was there too, and he did it with me. And we both basically got in trouble. Nothing really transpired any more than that until I was like 12 years old. And then from 12 on, pretty much used drugs and alcohol pretty much the rest until I got clean in 2018 in September. And yeah, so I've been clean and sober for like over 5 years. So yeah, man, that's pretty much how it went. Pretty much started smoking weed at 12 every day, ended up in rehab. Um, at 15, went to Alcoholics Anonymous at 18, back to rehab at 26. I went to multiple detoxes, families' houses, the detoxes, just an awful experience, man. I'm not going to lie to you. It's
No,
pretty bad.
I understand. I think the question that most people are afraid to ask, but I think I'm going to ask it is, what do you think should have been done differently in your childhood to help prevent that outcome in the first place?
I don't know if anything could have really been done. It's just, you know, um, the only thing you can really do is try and be better from that situation because everybody's parents have not been good. It's just the way it is. It's like they've done something. No one's perfect, right? And I just had some really young, I can't even say bad parents. They're just really young. They're on drugs and alcohol, and when those things are involved when you're young, like you're gonna do dumb stuff. So you're gonna make bad decisions, and and the result of that was I was exposed to that young, and some traumatic stuff had happened in between that time that maybe became a little bit more deep rooted in my drug use and alcohol because once traumatic things become deep rooted, I feel that you really start using drugs and alcohol to cope with everything. And then once you do it long enough, that is going to compound. It's going to be those bad decisions are going to compound. And for me, they compounded 22 years. So, of course, I'm going to be addicted. Anybody that does anything for 22 years is going to be addicted to it, especially mind altering substances.
Yeah, I agree. And then what caused you to get clean at 18? What do you think was the trigger to start realizing that you needed something else?
At 8 at f well, at 15, I went to rehab. I had no choice. I had to go to rehab, and I basically got picked up, and they're like had the doors locked, and I'm sitting there like, "Oh, where are we going?" And no one's saying nothing, and, we get, like, in the middle of nowhere where you can't jump out of the car even though the child locks were on, and they're just like, "Yeah, we're dropping you off at, like, this institution," and they're like, "Oh, great. This is awesome," and no, it was not awesome. And I don't know, you just when I went in there, you just figure out how messed up the youth really was when I think about it now because like I've had time to reflect on all these things because I feel like they mean something. And it was just like you get around all these kids that have, they're just like some are just like way gone. And yeah, I mean at 18, I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to Job Corps. It was like my last you know anything about Job Corps, it's like your last chance at like an education, a formal education really. So I went there. They said you get paid if you get a high school diploma and you get a vocation. So I'm like, oh, cool. They're going to give me money to graduate this. Oh, yeah. They do give you money, but it's a very, very tough thing to get through. And basically, my drinking was the easiest thing to get my hands on. And I would drink from time to time, and sometimes I would drink too much, and I'd make bad decisions, and I put myself in a situation where they were going to kick me out, or I could go to meetings, and I started going to meetings, and it was like this old school meeting with all these old bikers, and it was rugged, man. It was just like the smoke in the room. It was just like piled in there. Like if you open the door, it looked like just like fog rolled out of this place, it was like it was it was like old school like bikers. But that's where I ended up and it just started from there, man, pretty much. So started getting a formal education in sobriety.
And what do you think ultimately got you to choose to get clean for good?
Um I mean it was a lot of different scenarios, but I can remember, man, I was just like this last time, I had literally drove to my mom's, and she lived 16 hours away from me, and I literally in 1 year, I drove there 5 times, all the way through, and, like, all the way down there, I'm smoking cigarettes back to back, packs of cigarettes, 2 packs of cigarettes, and I would drive all the way through, and it was just like, "Get there," and I wasn't eating that well. I wasn't doing a lot of things well at that time, and I just wanted to eat and sleep, and I did that like 5 times. And this last time, I was just like, "Man, I ain't doing this again." And, my daughter lived with her at the time because me and my wife thought it was a better spot for her to live at the time, considering what I was going through and some of our her family dynamics and stuff. So I get there and like, she's like looks at me like, what is wrong with you? And I can just totally tell, and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm not gonna do this anymore. And I ended up, picking up a few books, probably one of the most renowned books in the world. And I started to read it. And then I just turned one day into two. And, I went back to recovery and that's pretty much where the journey started from there. And I started getting into fitness about 4 years ago. I was like 250 pounds. And I was just like, man, I can't do this anymore either. So I just went to the gym. I started getting the weight off. And before I knew it, I lost like 80 pounds. And then kind of just put me down this path of this is what I need to do. I hired a mentor, which is Wes Watson, and he gave me the blueprint as far as coaching and um, basically getting in shape and putting muscle on, and that's pretty much where my journey really took a turn for the best, was when I started having more of a strategy on how to do the gym, and I started getting confidence, and my whole life's changed from it. Pretty much I got rid of all the vices, for the most part, the major ones. So, I would, in the beginning of getting clean, I was trading one vice for another, which was food. In the bit, that's how I blew up to like 250. So, it was like, oh, I can't drink, can't do drugs, but boy, we're gonna eat pizza every day, or or we're gonna eat pasta, and we're gonna eat cheesecake, and we're gonna eat, you know, and it just started to add up, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just those decisions compound over time. So if you start making better decisions and those compound over time, your life's gonna get tremendously better. So I had to take a good hard look at the trajectory of my life at like 4 years ago, and it was not looking good.
Yeah. Do you think rehab worked in the sense that do you think it helped you move towards a better path, or do you think it was more of an intrinsic motivation, like you said, seeing your daughter as kind of the motivation to move forward, or do you think it was a combination of both?
I think rehab is necessary um for people that are coming off drugs. I'm not gonna lie, like, especially like because the thing with me was I was pretty much done by the time that happened anyways. So I was like low dosing everything pretty much. So it wasn't that hard for me. It was hard for me to come off it, but the repercussions of like death were like really low. But there's people out there that the way they drink, if they just like stop abruptly without professional help, it's not going to be good, or Xanax or different, even opiates too, I don't really think you can die from getting off of opiates, but it's going to be painful, and it's better to do that. It'd be better to do that in a facility if you're going down the same road as me, for sure.
Yeah, I like that. And then moving on to you started going to the gym and working out. Did you use initially the gym as a trade-off? Have something else to really focus on as besides the everything else you're doing, the drinking and the drugs? And then did you ever feel like at any point of giving up while you were in the gym? Were there relapse scenarios then would help to prevent from relapsing?
Yeah, I mean, the gym, that was the replacement. Like I said, the food was the biggest replacement for me, but I could see that the food was taking me down just as bad a path as anything else. So, and my gambling, and I had to, yeah, the I had to replace all of that, and fitness has done that. The gym has done that 100%. And it is at times like, oh man, I don't want to go. I'm sore. I'm this, I'm that. And it's this mind thing that goes on all the time that's tricking you out of doing things. And because your mind knows it's going to help you get better, because your mind's wants to keep you safe, but at the same time, like, my mind, I don't know how yours works, but my mind's trying to kill me all the time, so it doesn't want me to do anything positive. It's like, yo, you want to go to the gym and get healthy? Oh no, 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 we're not gonna do that today. We're gonna watch the NBA, or we're gonna just sit here and we're just gonna sit in our thoughts all day long and just go over and over and just have it turn over and over and over all day long. And no, I just go. I go. Some days I don't want to go, and some days I really want to go. But I know one thing for sure. When I leave the gym, I'm gonna feel accomplished. I'll be like, Yes, that's a win, that's a definite win. There's um compiling wins that I add up every day. Just getting up, eating the right food, reading books, and going to the gym. Those are four huge wins in the morning, you know? So,
No, I love this, and I want to point out something that I don't know if you've thought of or anyone listening has thought of. Everyone has some sort of addiction to something. It's human nature. And I think it's important to clarify that because you might hear somebody like your story and go, well, that's not my issue, but you have addiction to something and there's something holding you back from achieving things or feeling good. Maybe it's just an addiction to sitting around, like or watching. I think watching TV and cell phone usage is the easiest one. Yeah, is it going to kill you? Probably not, but it's going to have a negative feedback loop associated with it. So why not turn something as simple as that into a positive addiction like the gym, which ultimately ends up becoming, right? You're getting dopamine hits from working out and you get addicted to those dopamine hits and you constantly want that. So you're constantly striving for more, but you're doing yourself a service. You're not doing yourself a disservice like everything else.
well, yeah, and the thing is with drugs and alcohol, man, is like I'm not no doctor, but as far as this is not this is what I've heard, so I can't say it's my opinion or it's like a fact. I have no idea, but from what I've heard from being in rehab and treatment and being around therapists and doctors, um, that you don't even get high off the drugs. You get high off the combination between the drugs hitting the drugs that are already in your body. So that's what you're addicted to is the dopamine getting released, the serotonin, whatever is getting released once that hits, right? So if you're going to the gym, you're getting the uncut. You're not getting the psychoactive mind twisting stuff, you're getting the real stuff. You're getting stuff that's gonna open your mind. Because every time I go to the gym and I'm into it, like my mind's opening up to some other like lack of a like a dimension. Like it's opening up somewhere else. It's opening up doors. It's opening up doors that you don't even see because you're doing the work, where everybody else is on, not everybody else, but a lot of people are sitting around watching TV, they're sleeping in, different things. And these things compound too. Like if you sit around and watch TV long enough, it's gonna compound to a point to where your life it's not all that great, it's just reality. So if the guy that's getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning, even six, whatever, and he's going to the gym and he's reading and he's like meditating and doing all these steps before you even wake up, I mean, that guy's gonna win. I mean, it's gonna be hard to beat somebody like that,
Now,
It's
let me
just a
add
fact.
to your point because you're right. So, for example, brain fog is you get brain fog from watching TV, sitting around, and you kind of don't feel like you have a clarity in life, which is what you were saying. And you go to the gym, and I'm just going to use push-ups. That's just a generic example, but any exercise, you start doing like your first 20, 25 push-ups, and you're still in that brain fog, and you're really fighting it. And then somewhere around like 30, 35, your mind just opens up and it's like you said, it's just that clarity that people use other substances for, but you can get it from the gym. You wake up to this, wow, I feel awesome. And then all of a sudden, that workout, your first 5 minutes in that you were dragging, it's 35 minutes later because you were just living in that dopamine high, pushing through, working out. And
Yeah,
it's crazy.
it's the most. I mean, once you get going on personal development, it's for me, it's been the most addicting thing because I've always used like outside entities to try and fix me, like recovery or rehab or therapy or this and that. But once you start really getting down to like the root problems and the root causes of all this stuff, and you start learning how to fix yourself. And I mean, I had to hire a mentor to get me in that mind frame to be able to do that. But I mean, that's invaluable for a guy like me because now I can all day I'm like trying to correct myself on I mean, man, dude, I'm at the point to where like if I eat a bowl of cereal with peanut butter, I'm like, oh man, that's not good. Most people would be like, oh, that's not that bad. But like you start holding yourself to a higher standard, right? So, and by doing that and keeping yourself accountable, it's like this, it just starts correcting all this hardwired subconscious stuff your whole life. You start being able to fix yourself, and that becomes invaluable to somebody like me, and probably a lot of other people too, but I'm just going to speak from my personal my personal opinion, or what I've experienced. So through that process, that's what I've experienced, is just being able to like basically go inside, fix myself, figure out what's wrong, boom, boom, boom. And the gym is the pillar. Like you can't fix yourself without the gym. You can't, because it's going to give you the ultimate confidence, especially if you're doing it right. If your food's hitting and you know how to eat and you're going to the gym, oh bro, you're firing on all cylinders. Like your confidence is at an all-time high because first of all, you're looking around the gym and you're like 80% of the people, they're not doing it right. No shame on them. I mean, I did it too. But 80% of the people in the gym, they're not doing it right. But hey, they're there and they're exercising, which is a great thing. But once you start eating and you're working out and it's firing on all cylinders, man, there ain't nothing like that, man.
No, I want to point out a couple things you mentioned there and kind of discuss them a little further that were very valuable. I did an episode a few weeks ago on great, but I think it's important because the lesson inside of the entire 40-minute episode was, and it's something you mentioned right there, is once you stop blaming others and once you start taking the blame internally and saying, hey, how can I react? What can I fix with myself? That made it easier for you and for everybody in general to really fix it and do better and live better and understand that it doesn't matter what's going on in your life around you. It doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. It's how you react. And that's something you can always control, is by taking blame internally of how you react and respond to certain scenarios. And you were able to change that by fixing yourself and then reacting in a more positive way by pushing it towards going to the gym. And then that's going to compound. And it's something you said, like, I drink way less than I used to when I was younger, but it's because I have that positive reinforcement. It's like, even in one beer, it's like, I don't want that. That's going to make me like struggle deadlifting later. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one beer. I'm not going to be drunk, but like, I'm going to feel that in the gym when you're exerting yourself at that high of a level, like, or even not even just alcohol, just candy, just fried food. It's gonna You're gonna feel that later in the gym, and you're gonna be like, shit, and it's gonna suck, and you're gonna want that high from the gym, that dopamine hit, and you're not gonna be able to get as big of a hit because you didn't take the steps the 23 hours in the day that you're not in the facility and you're not working out.
Yeah. And you know as well as I do that the food is, if you're going to the gym, it's the most important part. It's you can't skip it. So I mean, if you're really looking for maximum results, mind, body, and soul, it has to be across the board. And that's what I've learned, and through my learning the coaching, you know, um, it hasn't been able to become all across the board for me yet, which is fine. You know, I didn't even know I was getting into coaching. I had no idea. All I knew I signed up for was brand building and getting in shape. That's all I knew I did. So for me, it's got to be across the board. And like I said, the biggest thing with the gym is eating. And it, like, if you eat right and you're hitting the gym right, your confidence is going to be sky high, and that is going to make all the difference in your life. I mean, even if you're, just working a 9 to 5, just trying to be like a good dad or a good husband or a good employee or whatever, but this is going to be um invaluable to you as far as making, like, of course, what I'm trying to do in life is a lot harder than just going to 9 to 5 and just putting my time in. But the guy that does just go to the 9 to 5 and he's on this blueprint of a program as far as eating and working out, I mean, it's going to be invaluable. They're going to kill it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And then Pat, kind of just to start wrapping this up, is where do you see your life heading? Like, what's the future going to bring?
Man, tell you the truth, man, I just want to help as many people as possible, man. I really do. And I think I figured out a way to do it. And it's just gonna take a lot of work, a lot of grind. And I don't know if it's gonna be hip hop that gets me there, if it's gonna be coaching or motivational speaking. I got a lot of work to do, man. I got a lot of I got a lot of places to go this year. I have a lot of music to make. I got a lot of hands to shake, and I got a lot of marketing to do. And yeah, man, I'm enjoying the journey, but at the end of the day, my main goal is to help as many people as possible on scale. On scale is like be able to help people on a large scale, not just like one by one, like on a larger scale.
I love that. And then I'm just going to ask you one final question instead of the typical two, because I just think it's so valuable. What advice would you give to people that are going through some kind of addiction now? What advice would you give them if you could speak to them directly right now?
Well, you can't give up and you can't die. So um you gotta stay resilient, because I that was the only reason I made it, is because I didn't die, and I stayed resilient and I didn't give up, and I was a worst case scenario. It's like I was like one drink away from living on the streets pretty much, because everybody was they had it. I was 34 years old. People had been seeing this for 22 years. So right now, using drugs is super dangerous. So, the fentanyl thing and whatnot it's an extremely different time to party than when I was partying. So yeah, so the don't die elements there. Just don't die and don't give up, man. And if it's not drugs and alcohol, you have to you have to find something that is going to replace that in a positive way. 100%.
I love that, man. Thank you. Thank you, Pat, for coming on. Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of Health Fitness
Thank you,
Redefined. Don't
man.
forget, hit that subscribe button. And remember, fitness is medicine. Until next time.